Generative AI is everywhere. It's made unbelievable, beautiful images, and it's also made some horrendous and stupid images. Some people love it, some people hate it, but one thing's for sure, it's here to stay. As a filmmaker, I was intrigued by what it was capable of, so I created a short film using only AI tools. You can check it out right here. Now, if you're interested in making your own film using these tools, stick around and I'll show you the tools and the workflow I use to make my short. In episode 1, we're going to break down your script, cast your movie, and scout your locations. In episode 2, we're going to storyboard your film and assemble it in the timeline. And lastly, in episode 3, we're going to shoot your film. All right, let's get into it with today's episode. Episode 1, breaking down your script, casting your movie, and scouting your locations. Okay, so the most important part of making a good generative AI project is having a story or a vision worth telling. Anybody can generate videos in generative AI. That's why there's so much slop and just bad content out there. But if you have a story worth telling, if you have something with a vision, something that has your unique perspective on it, then you're gonna make something worth seeing. This is a look at my script called Alex Engel. I wrote it in Final Draft and used traditional script format. You can see it here, stuff like interior, office hallway day, and then the description of what's happening. And then of course here, the dialogue of the different characters. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna export that as a PDF, and then we're gonna break it down in ChatGPT. Okay, so we've exported our script as a PDF, and then what I did is I brought it into ChatGPT. And I actually didn't know if I could do this, so I literally asked the question. I said, I would like to summarize the characters and settings of a script that I've written. Can I submit you a PDF of the script breakdown? It says, of course, yes, you can. Keep in mind that when you're using these tools, you can ask it these questions. You can say, can I do this? Or I want to do something like this. How do I do it? They're really more of a partner in your process. So if you don't know how to do something, just ask it, and then it might explain it to you. It might give you a way to do it or guide you in a certain way. Okay, so here you can see that I have uploaded my script as a PDF, and then it promptly breaks down your script into characters, settings, and notable prop visual elements. So here you can see the different characters. It's got my main characters, Alex Engel and the agent. It's got supporting characters that I'm gonna need to generate. And then of course, here are all the settings and locations, as well as key prop visual elements. Okay, so now we're gonna enter into the casting process. For me, I did most of my image generations in Google Gemini using Nano Banana. I found that it was the best at creating character consistency. You could create images in a lot of other programs. I've done projects where I've used ChatGPT to do this. I know people also use Midjourney, but I found that Nano Banana works the best. And again, I feel like it's the best at continuity of your characters as you change your angles and move things around. Okay, so what I've done is I've uploaded an image of the actor that I want Alex to look like. I explained that he should have pale blue eyes and be wearing a business suit that has a pale blue tie that matches his eyes. His pose should be natural, full body shot. And I'm asking it, hey, can you help me generate a prompt that I can use in Nano Banana? So I'm literally explaining it what I want and can you help me? That's the beauty of this program. You can just ask it to help you and then it will. I literally copied and pasted that into here, and then you can see this is what it came up with. Now this looks pretty great. There's the pale blue eyes, the pale blue tie, the correct outfit, and a full body shot. That's fantastic. So then going lower, I asked it for a headshot. It gave me this. Again, the continuity is fantastic. That looks really good. And then I asked it for a profile shot, and it was able to accomplish that. So these things all look really good. Now, later in my story, the character's eyes and tie change. It represents a change in the character. And so I asked it to have his eyes turn yellow and his tie to match the yellow. And this is what it came out. You can see that looks terrible. And that's kind of a little bit of what it's like working with generative AI, is that you have to be patient and you have to iterate over and over again. So if you get a bad result, you have to find a way to ask it in a different way or make slight changes based on what you're trying to accomplish. So I then re-uploaded a good image and said, can you change the iris of his eyes to yellow and make his tie match? So basically I'm just asking it again. And this time it came out much better. Who knows why? And then what I did is I then uploaded his headshot and did the same thing where I said, hey, can you make his eyes yellow and his tie match the color. And that's probably the best generation that I've gotten thus far with his yellow eyes. Now I asked for a profile shot of that same shot. So here we are. And, now at that point, I feel pretty good about this character. Now we're going to move on to creating another character. This is Alice. And so I got this image of Aquafina. Let's see here what I asked it to do. I said, I skipped having it help me with the prompt. I kind of was starting to learn at this point how to prompt my own stuff. So I said, this is Alice. Put her in a attire appropriate for working in office. And then I explained that her eyes should be yellow and that it should be realistic and cinematic lighting, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what it came up with. And I would say that's a fantastic generation. This is one of those rare times where you ask for something and it gives you what you want right away. So that's really cool. It feels like striking gold when it does what you ask. And there's other times where you just feel like you're running your head into the wall. And hey, guess what? That's working with AI. So now I've asked it to give me a headshot of the character, but can we, I want to make some adjustments to the character. Can we put her hair in a bun appropriate for the workplace? And let's also give her eyeglasses. Again, it just knocked this out of the park. So these are fantastic generations. Now I asked it for the profile shot. This is fantastic. And then, one more character that I wanted to generate was the agent. So I uploaded this reference. I said, let's create a character named Agent. He's a serious man wearing all black, including a black turtleneck. Make it a full body studio photograph with bright and even lighting in front of solid white backdrop. The style is hyper realistic photography, cinematic lighting, and sharp focus. His pose is neutral and looking to the camera. Here is my image. Now I was worried that he looked a little bit too much like the original character. So I asked it, hey, I fear this looks too much like the reference actor. Can we change his face to be a little bit different, but keep the wardrobe the same? And it came up with this, and ultimately this was the character that I used for my movie. So now you've gotten the idea. We again go back into making more headshots, profile shots, and I basically do this for every character. I did kind of do a similar thing with this character where I felt like my reference or this design was too much like Roger Jean Page. So I asked, what does it look like if we have no facial hair and shorter hair? And it came up with something like this. Now, I did like the way that looked, but you'll notice that he's lost his blue eyes. So then I ask it, hey, make his eyes pale like his tie. And then it does this monstrosity. So you can see this is where you have to be a little patient. Let's see here. I said, let's start over. This is the Alex character. He's handsome, light-skinned black man in his early 30s. He has pale blue eyes and is wearing a stylish business suit. So I really go into depth explaining all the things I want. And then this is what it came up with. And ultimately, this was the character I ended up going with in the movie. So you can see how you use references, you use prompting, and then you use a lot of patience and a lot of iterations to ultimately design these characters. And then, of course, once you've gotten these characters, you download all of these images and you put them in a folder. You make sure that you name each one the characters that they are, and you keep these organized, because ultimately we're going to use these in the next part of our thing, which is when we start to storyboard our shots. Okay, so now we're going to move on to creating your locations. This is part of your production design. This is where you create your locations for your scenes to take place. So again, I'm learning as I do this. So let's learn from my mistakes and ultimately kind of see the best way to get there. I wanted to create a cubicle office, something very sterile. So I was able to download this reference image here of a very sterile, boring office. I said, create a cinematic, photorealistic cubicle office using this reference as a layout. I wanted to include some employees and background artists, and I reminded it to make sure that it was a 16:9 aspect ratio. And this is what it came up with. I actually kind of like the lighting, the tone of it is nice. I like this clock that it put up there, but obviously you see some really weird things it's doing, putting up computers up here. This guy's like sitting in the corner behind these files. It does a lot of weird stuff. So this one is not there. So then I think I asked it like, hey, is there a way to make an image without the Gemini watermark at the bottom right? It tells me no. So I was like, okay, I'll figure that out later. Now, I am very affirming. I said, I love this image, but there should be only one employee per cubicle. Can we make this change? So I asked that, and it makes that change a little bit. It makes it a little bit better down here, but again, these all look terrible. This is not right. So let's see what I decide to do. I say, can you change the time on the clock from 17:47 to 8:45? Not sure. I think I was just kind of figuring out what can I adjust. It does actually make that change. So well done, Nano Banana. And then I said, I like this image a lot, but I would like to remove the workers and the computers with the white arrows that are pointing at it. I put them in for reference. Please remove these white arrows. So you can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to literally point at things and explain it. And it gets rid of everything. So in a way, it kind of did some good things there, but it's still, the image is not really working. So now I say, let's try this again. Use this image as a reference for a cinematic, photorealistic, dystopian office place. Each cubicle only has one employee per space. The tone is drab and hopeless. The workers grinding through their day, staring blankly at their computers. Please use a 16:9 aspect ratio and reference Stanley Kubrick's for style. And it came up with this. And this was a real yes moment. You see this, I'm like, I love the symmetry. That's very Stanley Kubrick. Everybody seems to be sitting in their seats. They're all staring blankly at their computers. This is what I was going for. So, after some patience and some trying over and over again, I got something that's workable. And I showed my excitement. This is great. Can you give the employees more variety in clothing? It's okay for them to wear more vibrant clothes, but keep the office gray and drab. So again, this is one of those moments where it's really working well as a teammate. I love the variety of clothing, but it still feels drab. That was a pretty successful change. I'm excited. This is incredible. Now, can you add personal effects to the spaces, family photos, children's drawing, keep it minimal to each space? Boom, it accomplishes that. So it puts stuff up, and this makes it more lived in. It looks more real. Really happy with that. Okay, so this is a great example of a good location that we can use in our storyboarding process in episode 2. The important thing to see with this process that I just showed you is that it's slow and it's tedious, and there are times where it gets confused. And I found often that if you're really spinning off and it's getting worse and worse and worse, it's good to just tell it, stop, let's start over, here's a reference, let's build from scratch. And sometimes I had to just straight up start a new chat to actually start a new thing, because that specific chat was getting so confused and had so many muddied references that it was just creating a really bad image. Okay, great. So through this episode, we have broken down your script. We have casted your movie, and now we have scouted your locations and created them. In episode 2, we are going to take these things and storyboard your film and assemble it in the timeline. See you then.